Hey everybody, welcome to 3 Answers for Critics that are close to home. Hey, it's Phil Johnson here with this week's email and video blog on the whole series that we have going called the Easy Button Overcoming Obstacles. And this is for every beat up and discouraged Christian who wants to gain some insight today into why you may be having critics that are close to home. You know what I mean by that. People are in your family or supposedly friends, and they're criticizing you, and how you can stop all that constant criticism, or what I like to call nagging. How do you go about that? So here's the truth. Jesus preached a sermon a long time ago. You may have heard of it, called Sermon on the Mount. He had lots of points in that, but one of the points was no judging. And judging is a kissing cousin to criticism. Jesus made an important point when he was talking about this. He says, make sure that you take the log out of your own eye before you start messing with the speck in your neighbor's eye. And let's stop and think about that for a second. When you're a critic, what that's saying is that you may be unaware of your personal state and your motives. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So, Paul tells us something kind of important too in this whole deal. And I'm going to be paraphrasing what he said in Romans chapter 2, verse 1. He says, don't judge, because at whatever point you judge somebody else, you're guilty of the same. And it's almost like that becomes a marker for judging, that it's actually something that's within. We call those people hypocrites. The last thing that you want to do when you're criticizing somebody is to reveal that you're guilty of the same actions or attitudes. So, however, when we are being criticized from the outside, we wonder, why is this happening? Why are they after us? And, we criticize basically what we know. And what we know best is ourselves, our failures, and what we don't like about ourselves. So let's look at 3 questions here real quick today. And let's try to gain some insight as to how to handle those critics close to home. And first is what motivates these critics that are supposedly your friends, their family? Well, the first is your failure may be a comfort to the critic. Now, that sounds weird, but now stop and think about this for a second. If you withdraw back from your purpose and your calling that you're pursuing, and they're criticizing that, then this could serve as an example that they shouldn't be attempting something that's in the back of their mind that they should be trying to achieve. And so it becomes a comfort that if they can criticize you and get you to back off, then they feel better about being in their ordinary life. The second is, the trials may cause fear within the critic that you're going to go through some hard times and some battles. I like to call these critics well-intentioned critics. These are the people who love you, but they don't want to see you have any pain. And sometimes when we push forward to do something, we're going to encounter some pain, and they don't like seeing that. And so they would rather criticize that, saying, oh, don't do that. It's too hard, too difficult. Another is your purpose may cause anxiety of personal loss for the person. This is, once again, a well-intentioned critic, and they fear that if you pursue this path, that this path is going to move them away from you, and you won't be able to be with them in the relationship that you're in. That very well could be true, but they're well intended, but they're criticizing that, but they don't understand that it's actually that they love you and they don't want to be separated from you. Another one is their failure may cause a sense of security for the critic. Maybe they attempted to something similar in their own life. They tried to pursue a dream at one time, and they allowed the obstacles that they were facing to derail them. And so, if you do the same, if you get derailed too, then dreams are just too hard, and we shouldn't try. And so, there's a false sense of security that if everybody fails, then it's okay that I failed. And finally, and there's a whole myriad of these, and I could not possibly give you all the reasons, but I'm just giving you some examples here. And another example is failure to may give a false sense of value to the critic by predicting that you are going to fail. That gives them a sense of knowing more about what you should be doing, and they know more than what maybe the creator and what he has planned for you, and they know more than you know, and so it gives them a false sense of value, and maybe they have overruled the creator in the past and said, no, that doesn't work for me. So there's all kinds of reasons, all kinds of motives that our critics could have, and that's why they could be coming at us. Well, the second question is what to do when critics come our way, and the first is that we should listen but guard our hearts. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So everything that you do flows from your heart. And so you need to listen to the critics, and you need to, and this will be teased out a little bit more here, but you need to listen to the critics, but you should be very careful not to allow them to harm your heart and your dream, because that's where all your actions are going to come from. Next is separate the truth from the criticism and the emotions of the critic. The Ephesians 4:15 says that we should be speaking the truth in love to each other. Now, we can't make our critics speak the truth in love to us, but what we can do is we can recognize when it's not coming through that way, and we need to sift through all the emotion and all the stuff and mine down to the things that are true. And finally, and I kind of gave that away for the next one, is mine the golden nugget while getting rid of the worthless accusations. And Philippians 4:8 tells us that we should be thinking about those things that are true and noble and right and pure and lovely and admirable and excellent and praiseworthy. And these are all the things that we should be thinking about. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't listen to criticism because it's not, any of those things. Because what you want to do is you want to mine out those things that are true, and you're to think about that and not think about all the worthless accusations that go along with it. So that brings us to our third question. Is there something I can do to put a fence around myself to overcome those critics that are close by? And the first is this: perform regular self-evaluation. 2 Corinthians 13:5 tells us that it's very important for us to self-evaluate. And so you need to regularly think about yourself and be your own best critic. And that will that'll begin to put up that fence. Second is to have your own board of directors and to assist you in this evaluation. Proverbs 15:22 says that with lots of advisors comes success. So you don't need to have a board meeting, but you are the CEO of you. And so you need to stop and think about, all right, I need a board of directors. So maybe you have a spiritual advisor that's going to help you with that area. Maybe you have a professional coach, something that I do, that coaches you in how to handle life. Maybe you have a financial person. Maybe you have a skills person. Maybe you have a weight loss consultant. But you have all these people that are helping advise you and evaluate you. And finally, you need to restrict the access of your time to negative people. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And so don't allow yourself to be misled that, I can take all this criticism, it's not a big deal. As if you allow that to come into your life over and over and over again, it will corrupt your good character. And so you need to limit the amount of access that negative people have. And we talked about negative last week, and that's kind of the deal. So next is to obtain clarity and certainty and courage, and to achieve your capacity of your potential. How do you do that? I suggest you read my book, Awakening the Dreamer's Quest. Get a copy of that and read that and study that. This actually is a section out of the book that I'm sharing with you today. And so, what are the big takeaways for today? First is understanding that there could be possible motives that the critics have when they're criticizing you that have nothing to do with you, but they have everything to do with the critic themselves. Second is to equip yourself with the proper methods to facing these criticisms. And then third is to implement a long-term strategy to face critics that enter your life. Now, the bottom line here is very simply this, that you can gain insight into what may be motivating these critics without having to be constantly criticized. Now, if you're excited about turbocharging this process and you'd like, I'd suggest you take a couple of minutes and check out my book, Awakening the Dreamer's Quest. You can go to coachingsome.org, that's S-O-M-E, coachingsome.org, and you can instantly begin to stand up to the critics that are close to home. This is Phil Johnson. By the way, I believe in you, and I believe in your dream. Have a great day.